Dear body, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I was so mean to you when you were just trying to keep me alive. I'm sorry that I lit fires in your crevices, and when I begged you to put them out, I yelled at you when you did so in the only way that you knew how. I'm sorry that I kicked you every time you were down. I'm sorry that I never spoke to you the way I spoke to others, treated you with kindness like I treated others, gave you a hug when all you needed was a hug. I'm sorry I dragged you through the mud and carried on without a chance to wipe off. Sorry I walked around in you and on you with dirty shoes on, making a motel out of you while I was too busy driving to every destination, not realizing that you were not a motel, but the big, massive mansion homies only dream of. Dear body, I'm so sorry. Hi, friends. It's your girl Harpo, and welcome to this episode of Brown Girl Guilt. This episode and the rest of the month are going to be a little bit of schmidge different than what you're used to hearing. So the first 2 months of the first season of Brown Girl Guild saw a lot. I gave you guys a glimpse into some of the closest women in my life, some of the relationships that I hold most dear to, and also conversations that I've just been dying to have ever since I existed. But this month, I'm going to give you a glimpse into me, a little bit more into my relationship with myself, my relationship with particularly my body, because that is a relationship that I've really been cultivating and really been fostering for the last year or so. And so it's something that is so important to me. And I don't think that we could have had a first season of Brown Girl Guild without having that conversation blasted out to all of you. And also, I guess I should be very transparent and honest in saying that the conversations that I'm having during this month of Brown Girl Guild's first season is really a way for me to practice exercising my voice. It's really me practicing what it means to live authentically in my authenticity, to really talk, like not just like talk, but like really talk, to open up and to really make myself vulnerable in more ways than I already have. And so this month is an entire month of just me challenging myself, me just expressing myself, and also just giving you all a little bit more I have like an insider scoop on what the hell is always happening in my brain. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it, the first episode of this incredibly unique month. So, I remember this day like it was yesterday. I was in grade 5 and it was lunchtime. I was wearing a bright pink, hot pink collared shirt, much to my dismay. My mom always bought me these collared shirts, and it just like wasn't my vibe. A collar just wasn't my vibe, and I just didn't really fucks with it. And this shirt was super tight, and at 10 years old, it fit me pretty snug. It showed all the parts of my 10-year-old body, including the big bloated bump where my abdomen was. Now, they say sometimes all it takes is a moment, one moment to change the entire course of your life. And this next part that I'm about to tell you is one of those moments for me. There was a little tinku nearby hanging out, and he walked up to me while I was wearing that really bright, atrocious pink collared shirt. He walks up to me and he says, "Yo, you're so fat. Like, look at your stomach." I was crushed, bro. Fat? Me? What? Kate, katon. I looked down at my 10-year-old body, and for the first time in my life, I saw myself through the eyes of another. You never forget that day where you finally see yourself through the eyes of somebody else. And it was the first time that I saw not just myself through my own eyes or the image that the mirror was relaying back to me. In pointing out the bulging, bloated abdomen on my 10-year-old body, little Tinku became nasty little Tinku, and he changed my whole life. I began wearing looser, more baggier tops and fighting my mom on all the outfits she laid out for me every morning. Yeah, my mom still picked out my clothes at 10 years old. I would never do that to my child. I'd be like, "Yo, bro, express yourself." But the insecurity had seemed to travel so far into my mind that I wanted to wear the same jacket I felt most comfortable in every day to school. Every day I wanted to wear the same jacket. And for years, my body has seen challenges and changes. If 10-year-old Harpo was where it began, 24-year-old Harpo is where it still hasn't seen a stop. At 14, it was multiple visits and thousands of dollars to a naturopath after losing a shit ton of weight without really an explanation. At 16, it was my doctor asking me why I was so short and ordering blood tests to see what was going on. And then at 21, it was learning I had polycystic ovarian syndrome slash PCOS and being started on a pill I would start taking every day for the next 4 years without really any information or any sort of further knowledge to really empower myself and to equip myself. And now at 24, it's an incredibly brand new life without all the foods that once comforted me and I enjoyed preparing. So, if you've been following me since June of 2020 or earlier, first of all, you're a G, you're a gangster. If you're not, that's okay. We're getting acquainted still. But you'll know that I started working with a nutritionist to better deal with my PCOS. And so, for those of us who don't know what PCOS is, polycystic ovarian syndrome is a condition and it impacts women's hormone levels. It can cause infrequent to no menstrual periods, to also infrequent and no ovulation. That's when your body releases an egg. Excessive hair growth, mood swings, severe weight gain or loss. It can also cause problems with conceiving. It can be hard to have babies, and it can also cause long-term health effects like diabetes and heart disease. And so many women are living with PCOS and they go almost their whole lives without actually being diagnosed while quietly living in pain and discomfort. And in extreme cases, like I mentioned, infertility, endometrial cancer, and depression. And while there is no real cure and solution to PCOS, most women who do have PCOS are often given band-aid solutions to help manage the condition. And the best one, my favorite one, is just lose weight, yeah, you'll be okay. And they say 6 to 10% of women experience PCOS, and it's the most common reproductive issue for women worldwide. They also say that ethnicity has a huge role to play with it, with South Asian women having more severe reproductive and metabolic symptoms than any other ethnic groups, as reported by not me, but Jaya Mehta, Vikram Kamdar, and Daniel Dumesic in Phenotypic Expression of Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome in South Asian Women. Basically, brown girls, we is fooked, and we don't even know it. In my case, like many women, my doctor prescribed birth control to me for 4 years in an attempt to restore a normal hormone balance. And while the pill helped regulate ovulation and my menstrual cycle, curb excessive hair growth, and protect me against endometrial cancer, it failed to give me the best quality of life and make my body actually feel like home. Shit was just like still not feeling right? So in June of 2020, I decided that I wanted to enlist the help of a nutritionist who specializes in PCOS bodies and PCOS friendly advice. I began working with Preet from Aura Holistic Health, who I talk about endlessly on Instagram all the time because she really did help change my life, bro. She took it beyond a one-dimensional weight loss approach. And while the birth control pill was doing all the things my doctor had promised for my specific body, not just every specific, not just every PCOS body, because not all bodies are the same. It wasn't until I changed my nutrition habits that I actually saw improvements to my PCOS. And so these nutritional improvements have obviously also seen me lose weight, right? In April of 2020, I was close to 130 pounds. I was super chubby, bro. I was probably like the chubbiest, the most inflamed, and honest to God, the unhappiest and most stressed out that I've ever been. But fast forward to now, April 2021, I'm the leanest I've ever been. I've lost over 15 pounds and like dead ass, I'm glowing. I feel so good. And summer 2020 saw me ordering bikinis off Zafu like nobody's business, right? Like taking selfies at the lake every weekend with a White Claw in my hand. Life is good? And yet, I'll confess that all of this entire thing still isn't enough most days. I lift up my shirt and look at my abdomen more than a dozen times every day. Every time I see a mirror, I do a quick 180, look at my abdomen from all angles, celebrating myself if I'm flat, but really, really being mean to myself if I'm bloated. And I mean that, like really mean, incredibly mean. The idea for this entire episode actually came from one of those dozen mirror abdomen check-ins. I'd been doing it mindlessly for so long until one day something just clicked. And I said to myself, Harpo, you run up to the mirror after every meal to see how far your stomach is sticking out. And the worst part is, even with this awareness now, I can't stop doing it. It's actually even gotten stricter. And it has. I mean, if I have a date, I will eat very, very minimally that day. And I don't have coffee the day before. And I also don't have coffee the day of. Because what if I want to wear a nice dress for this man's? What if he's cute enough for a dress, but I'm too bloated and then I'm going to look not so nice in that dress? If I know I'm going to be in front of a camera, I find all the best ways to alleviate bloating and I stick to the regimen leading up. I'm constantly existing in my head about how my body looks and I'm beating myself up at the end of the day. Most days, yes, I love my body and I'm so proud of the journey that we've been on together as body and soul. But most days, I'm still being incredibly mean to my body and seeing things in the mirror that others really aren't. Let's go back to 10-year-old Harpo in that bright magenta, as my mom would call it, hot pink, ugly collared shirt that basically ruined her life, okay? Perhaps the biggest change that came from that moment, though, despite all the bullshit that's happened, was how I actually started to breathe from then on. Now stay with me, okay? It was the breathing that really got impacted. So in an attempt to seem skinnier and less bulgy around my abdomen, I started to really suck my stomach in. And at first it was hard, but over time my body just became fully trained. At first, I would find pockets of alone time in corners and bathrooms where I could go fully exhale, push my abdomen out, and reset. Eventually, though, my body learned how to adapt its muscles and breathe in the way that I was forcing it to. Eventually, I learned to stand and not sit on the floor at picnics because it would cause my stomach to fold over. I learned where to buy the best high waist jeans that stopped just below my boobs. And eventually, my torso just conformed to the size 2 that I was forcing it into, even if it really badly wanted the size 4 or 6. I would have like jean marks inevitably, like button marks, jean marks, belt marks on my body all the time. Eventually, I learned that the color black is perfect for hiding rolls. That the sucking in my stomach and covering my abdomen became honestly as natural as blinking. So now it's no surprise that I'm into witchy shit. I love me my crystals and my tarot cards and other spiritually healing modalities. So it's really no surprise that I ended up at a metaphysics and spirituality convention one winter. I noticed an astrologer and clairvoyant at the conference that I particularly felt very connected to. And so I put my name down on his list and eventually I had a session with him. And it wasn't like in the first few minutes, but he says to me, "You have a hard time with your breath. You've been stifling your breath for so long and your body is always tense. You're taking short breaths and even thinking about your breath makes you anxious, doesn't it?" He was right. I'd been sucking my stomach in since I was 10. Spanx? Nah, I just pulled my stomach in real far and hoped for the best. I was indeed a shallow breather. He was right about that. And there was so much about my body that just really wasn't me. There was so much in my head about my body that wasn't me. My relationship with my body had been so governed and set up by the voices of people around me, by the continuous messaging I received about how I should see my body, treat my body, and most importantly, feel about my body. From nasty little Tinku who called me fat to the doctors who ordered blood tests out of concern, but honestly, every time failed to call me back and were like, "Yo, you're okay," to the entire medical system that writes off problems with my body as women's issues. Of course, there was going to be so much of my body that wasn't really me. And to think that something as sacred as breath, something as pure and vital as breathing, even the way I was doing that, the way I was denying my body a feel, a really deep belly breath, making my chest do all the work, even that wasn't actually me. When I say a lot has changed for me, my body this past year, I absolutely mean it. My relationship with my body has become an incredibly intricate one. I mean, I can't stop looking at my abdomen in the mirror and being mean to myself, yes, but I'm also far more respectful towards this vessel now than I have been in the past. And while I personally think that this is the hottest I've ever looked in my life, no freaking cap, I still find myself comparing my body to honeys with abs. In the past, I would see exercise as punishment, but now I see stretching before bed, holding that really hard pose in yoga class, lifting the 35-pound weight over the 10-pound weight, all of this as ways to move energy through my body as opposed to punishment. Now I take full belly breaths, pushing that abdomen out like nobody's business, and eating a balanced diet that does not include foods that make my PCOS body bloat. But I also still catch myself being obsessed with the kind of ideal body type for my weight and height, panicking when I see the first sign of inflammation, and calling myself a dumb bitch every 6 months when I really, really want, like I really got an intense craving for junior chicken. And I'm going to be brutally honest, it hasn't been easy. And I think I'm still looking for a kind of balance and solution that doesn't make me want to turn off my brain and run away. If anyone has any ideas, please, bro. Like I'm saying it right here, right now. Slide into my DMs. Okay, just tell me. But I also recognize this is all part of this wild thing called self-love. I mean, no one said this journey of loving yourself or coming back home to yourself was going to be easy. And yet here I am, showing up as best as I can every day. Even on the days that I drink a smoothie with beets and spinach in it, or on the days I'm like, you know what? Today seems like a birthday cake jar from Just Cakes full of gluten and dairy that in theory is killing my insides. That kind of day. That's what it seems like today. I say to myself, Harpo, it's okay. Multiplicities can and do exist. I have to recognize that at 24, I'm undoing and unlearning a lot while simultaneously doing and learning a lot. We have to forgive ourselves for the times and days we didn't know any better, for all the times we spent asleep to different possibilities and alternative realities. I have to tell myself that it may seem like there's so much more left to do, but how far I've been able to make it thus far is something worth celebrating every minute of every day. Looking at my titty in the shisha maybe only 3 times that day over 9 is actually worth, a silent round of applause just for my damn self. I'm going to end off with something someone said to me as an affirmation recently. It goes, I release all that's been given to me that isn't mine to begin with. Okay. So I release nasty little tinku. I release that fugly hot pink collared shirt from my memory. I release my breath. I release the unrealistic expectations capitalism puts on our bodies. I release the shit I've made up in my head of what the cute mans I have a crush on might think about my body. I release the idea that eating McDonald's fries with tartar sauce for dinner makes me a dumb bitch. I release perfection and I release the idea that my body should be anything other than what the hell it truly has the potential for. And most importantly, I release you all from this episode to go ponder on your own, to go explore what that relationship is like for you with your body, how far you've come, how far you still have to go. I release you all from that, and I hope you find it within yourself to also release everything that's been given to you that really isn't yours. Thanks for tuning into this first episode. It's been really hard for me to exercise this vulnerability, and it does not end here. It's going to continue. Like, comment, share, subscribe, review. Tell me in the DMs how this episode made you feel, and practice gratitude, glory, and grace to yourself especially.